So I would first like to thank the French delegation for the kind invitation. I'm very pleased to be here in Paris. Much that has been said I would agree with. Very important to stress the foundations of Europe, which are symbolized by Athens, Rome, and of course Jerusalem. This is very true. I'm not sure that our children are being taught this in schools. The education in Europe seems more today like indoctrination and not education, not real education. And we must pay attention to this both as politicians but as parents. In Zagreb, where my younger children are still in elementary school, we're lucky to have a Catholic private school where they can actually learn the truth instead of propaganda. I think much of the public school system is designed to educate obedient citizens who will simply follow the line of the government. I want to first make a comment regarding feminists. When I think of France, the first woman I think of is Saint Joan of Arc. That's who I think of. I also think of Saint Thérèse de Lisieux. People like this who left a great mark on our European civilization, and France should be very proud of its Catholic history. Coming from Croatia, I would say yes, we were in a fight for our survival 30 years ago. Many of the soldiers who died and gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom had rosaries around their necks. So they had a I think, deep conviction that it was worth dying for their homeland, and also they had a relationship with God. They weren't thinking about, surely they weren't thinking about progressive values and transgenderism, what is being imposed on Croatia now through the European Union. We did join in 2013, we're the last member to join, and there are benefits of being in the European Union, but I'm afraid that Europe today is going through a very deep identity crisis. When I look at the European Parliament, and I wanted to visit the meditation room, the quiet room, to see how the Parliament has designed this. It's basically an empty space, completely empty. And as our colleague earlier said, there have been many ideologies, especially in the 20th century, that negated, that denied the patrimony of Western civilization. They were anti-Western ideologies that actually emerged within Europe. Today, we have much of this in the European Union. I think the deep truth of Western civilization is that we have at its core the relationship between Christian faith and reason. So Pope Benedict talked about the Hellenization of Christianity. In fact, in the early church, it was not possible to define truths of the faith without Greek philosophy. The terms used were Greek philosophical terms to define higher truths of theology. And this relationship between faith and reason today has been lost. Not just that the progressives deny Christianity, they are in fact today denying reason itself. Reason itself. That's why ECR rightly talks about common sense. We have to return to common sense. It's kind of an insanity that has become almost official dogma in Brussels. So if I question a commissioner in the hearings whether it's just and fair for men to be competing against women in sports, he has no answer. He cannot answer the question. They treated me as some kind of heretic who should not be asking questions like this because it's not politically correct. And this has really become a major source of weakness for Europe. We see in the United States, President Trump is acting very quickly. The system actually works. You have consequences after an election, and he's moving with executive decisions to change the course of the country. In Europe, things don't work that way. It's very slow. Parliamentary democracy is complicated. You can actually win an election and not get into power because the other parties collaborate together. We see this also in the European Parliament, where the conservative forces are on the rise, but it's still the so-called old mainstream, including the Christian Democrats, that are always making deals and really at the expense of European citizens. It's not working. It's not working. So yes, I would say the tools that we need, and that's been mentioned before, we need proper education. Our education system is failing. We can learn from what's happening in the United States. I believe that Trump will soon abolish the Department of Education, which is doing more harm than good. And he's right to do that, I would say. It's justified to do that. Families, in Europe, we have to, again, speak about the natural family, fathers and mothers and their children. That is the core definition of a family. And that has also been lost. We're fighting different ideologies, and in the process, the countries that are not facing this. For example, the Islamic world. You know, we can talk a lot about Islam, but the reality is that its civilization is growing. Europe is a continent of dying nations. We are dying. We have not just the negation of the truth, but we have a kind of decadence that is a logical consequence of this denial of the truth. So if you have low church attendance, it's not a surprise that we have low birth rates. These things are very connected, and there's no amount of economic incentives that the government can provide to make men and women have more children. It's a much deeper decision. It's a cultural question, even a spiritual question. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest that we indeed go back to basics, that we affirm who we are without apologies. I think, you know, our European civilization is the greatest civilization ever that's ever been created by man. I'm very pleased that we're going to visit the beautiful cathedral today. Just around the corner, there is a church dedicated to Saint Augustine. And in this church, Saint Charles de Foucault had his conversion just about 1 kilometer from where we are. And Saint Augustine was one of the leading. He was one of the founders, in fact, of our Western civilization. And perhaps a final thought: his vision of two cities moving through history that he elaborated in De Civitate Dei remains true still today. We have in Europe a distinction between political and spiritual power. This is something unique that was a contribution of Christianity to our civilization. And unfortunately, the European Union has lost this. I think in reality, Europe functions more as a Hobbesian creature. Thomas Hobbes, who was a materialist philosopher and denied natural law. He denied natural law. His philosophy is more at the basis of how European institutions function, not Aristotle or St. Augustine or St. Thomas Aquinas. So go back to basics. Be proud of who we are. We have nothing to be ashamed of. European civilization should be admired. I grew up in the United States. My parents fled communism. And on a final note on communism and these different ideologies, if we're talking about cancel culture today, communism was really cancel culture on steroids. You know, they had the power to kill you. They had the power to kill you, not just marginalize you. If they thought you were a threat to their power, they would simply put you in prison or even kill you. That was the reality. And unless we speak up and boldly defend what we believe, 5-10 years from now, we will not be having these debates. We will be simply censored and canceled, and we can't allow this to happen. I think Europe is slowly waking up. We don't have much time. And again, I want to thank you for this privilege. Thank you very much.